my name is Anna, I'm a fiction writer, and sometimes I make videos about how it's going. If you've been following along, I think by now you know that I love a good vlog. But today I want to do something a little bit different. Today I want to start a series called What My BFA Did Not Teach Me. If you didn't know, I do have a writing degree, but the process of actually writing my first book and all the self-teaching and self-learning and research that I've done over the past year, and since joining AuthorTube and getting immersed in a writing community, all that has taught me the same, if not more, than what I learned about writing in my degree. I do have a lot of conflicting feelings about the fact that my writing degree, with a concentration in fiction, did not teach us anything about the process of writing a novel, the business of writing a novel, of selling a novel. And I think as a program that's trying to train modern writers to have a hope of being full-time, I do think that was a disservice. The fact that I learned almost nothing about how to write a novel in my program kind of irks me. Over the past year and a half where I've been taking my novel more seriously, I'm uncovering a lot of gaps in my knowledge and teaching myself about how to plot, how to get through the first draft, how to fast draft. Fast drafting was a concept I never knew about, and in fact was completely opposite from the way I was trained to write in my program. If you're new here, hey, welcome. All you need to know is last month I finished a very shitty first draft. I wrote a novel throughout the course of 2020, finished it in November, and boy is it bad. But no one in school taught me what to do after this point, or even how to get this far, if I'm honest. So I've been spending the month doing a lot of research about what to do when you have your first draft done. How do you make your first revision plan? What is the best way to systematically approach a project of this size? I've been doing a lot of my own research about fantasy authors who are full-time professionals who we all know and love. How do they approach their first revisions efficiently, effectively? So yeah, welcome to the first chapter of What My BFA Didn't Teach Me. It's how to make a revision plan. All right. Okay, welcome to my kitchen island. As I mentioned in the intro, I kind of have spent the whole month of December not looking at my manuscript and instead trying to find any information I could from successful career authors about how they approach their first revision. And you know, there really wasn't a lot out there. I thought I was going to be able to do this video and tell you this is how Brandon Sanderson does it, and this is how Susan Denner does it, and I did find some really awesome information from some of those people, but a lot of authors, at least on their websites and interviews and things that I found, didn't really talk about this part of the book writing process, which I did find kind of disappointing because they all say that writing is revising, and if you have a hope of being a career novelist, I think they would all agree that revising books is the one skill that will set you apart. So I found it kind of surprising that no one has asked those authors these questions very often. A lot of their websites have stuff about how to get through your first draft, how to have motivation, where to find ideas, but not very much about the actual business of shaping a novel into something that people will actually find readable. So I did go ahead and I checked out author websites and interviews from people like Brandon Sanderson and Susan Dennard, of course, Tomi Adeyemi, Marissa Meyer. I also looked at a ton of people that just didn't have anything, like Sarah J. Maas, George R. R. Martin, you know, you name it. I looked at their website trying to find if they had anything about their revision process, and very often they didn't. Honestly, a lot of what I'm going to use for my revision plan of attack comes from Susan Dennard. I think on AuthorTube we hear a lot of the advice that I'm about to go through with my revision plan, but it was really nice to hear it from authors, and that's really what I was after, was just a validated approach that actually works for people. Okay, here we go. You're actually getting a new piece of paper because I messed up on the first one, so second try's the charm. Here we go. The first step I don't think will come as a surprise to anyone. We've all seen this in a ton of writing advice videos, but your first revision should always start with letting it rest. The amount of time that authors suggest to leave your manuscript alone and not look at it varied from 2 to 3 months to even as long as 6 months. I've let mine rest for about a month now, and I think that's enough. I think every time is probably different. You have to balance your excitement for the story and keeping all the ideas that you had as you were writing fresh in your mind, while also giving yourself enough space so that you can come back to it objectively. Yeah, I think 1 month will be good for me. The second one, print the whole manuscript. Also not a big surprise. I've already done this. Bound it all up in a big book from Staples. If you don't want to print the whole draft, just put it in a different medium. So if it's in Dabble, put it in Google Docs. If it's in Google Docs, put it in Word. Change the font, put it on your Kindle, put it on your e-reader. Just do something so that the way it looks is different and your visual memory of what the manuscript looks like no longer applies. And I think that helps you, again, just read it objectively, read it like a reader, as if this is the first time you're reading these sentences. Okay, number 3 is read it all in one go. And this is something that Susan Dunner definitely stressed. She said, read it in as close to one sitting as possible. You want to approach it like a binge reader. I think she called this the what the heck did you write stage. And you're just trying to get a picture of what you actually put down, what maybe didn't get onto the page that was still in your head. Just trying to go from beginning to end as quickly as possible. And as we're reading, we're doing step number 4, and that is no edits, just notes. Absolutely no line editing, no developmental editing yet. We're not making any decisions or committing to any changes. Even if you think you know what needs to be fixed, just hold off for the minute. And while you're doing your reread, just write things down that come to mind. Things that you notice, problems that are coming up, any ideas you have potentially about how to fix things, but you're not implementing anything. Just writing things down. And her process involves splitting all these notes up into 3 sections. So you have a list of plot problems, setting problems, and character problems. And everything that you want to tackle first is probably going to fall under one of these really big umbrellas, and if it doesn't fit in here, it's probably small and can wait. Susan does these on worksheets that you can actually get on her website, but I was a little extra and I happen to have a lot of empty notebooks. I have this really gorgeous notebook that's just been sitting on my shelf. I started using it as a reading journal and just completely fell off. So it has a ton of blank pages, so I figured I would make it my revision notes notebook, and it's spiral bound, which means it's really easy to write on. So yeah, I just went ahead and decorated it a little bit to kind of cheer myself up when the revision is looking really terrible and really daunting. After you've done the full reread, step number 5 is to re-outline with scene summaries. So we're making a new outline that is even more specific to the draft that we actually wrote as opposed to the outline we did before we wrote, if that makes any sense. So Susan does this with note cards, and at first I was kind of opposed because that's a lot of paper and just seemed kind of fiddly to me, so I'm sure you could do it digitally, but after reading more about her process, I think I'm going to give it a go. I just did an example here with the first scene in my novel. It's not really that spoilery, but you basically write out a 1-sentence summary of what happens in the scene. And the point of this is just to take stock of every scene and make sure that it pushes the plot forward, that it's serving the story, and it's doing something important that it needs to be doing, and it needs to be there. Or figuring out that maybe it doesn't need to be there. So the one thing that Susan does with her scene summaries is she goes and highlights, and there's a lot of color coordinating that she does. I probably won't go that far, but she goes through and highlights and make sure that in each scene there is a presence of the protagonist, the antagonist, the goal or the overall goal of the scene or the goal of the character, as well as conflict. And if any of those things are missing from the scene, then it's probably a weak scene and could be strengthened. Number 6 is something that I hadn't read in any writing advice or revising advice before I stumbled upon Susan's website, and that was to set your target. And this involves kind of taking a step back and thinking about what needs to be in the book in order for you to say that it was perfect. What are the things that you really hope people will love about it? What needs to be included in the draft for you to say that you wrote it exactly as you envisioned it and you gave to readers exactly what you wanted? Like, what are the elements that are most important to you? And these are going to be your North Star, your guiding principles, and every edit that you make going forward is going to hopefully push the draft closer to these North Stars. So they should be directing every choice that we make from here on out. And I think it's nice to just reflect on your dreams for the story and to remind yourself to dream big for the story. And yeah. Number 7 is to make the plan of attack, and this is where we actually take all the notes that we made, all the things we stumbled upon when we remade our outline, and actually putting that into our plan and writing out scene by scene what we can do to strengthen each scene, strengthen the story overall. So imagine that I'm going through my notebook and it's full of all the things that are wrong and all the ideas I have of how to make it better. And I, in my notes, have detailed where all these problems are taking place so that I can transfer them onto my note cards. And that way I can pick up an individual note card and just see exactly what I need to do in that single scene. And it's a lot less overwhelming that way, and it can seem like a little tiny checklist as opposed to a huge overwhelming project that you have no idea where to start with. So you can see these are things that I've kind of imagined that I might need to fix in this scene, and when I actually go through the process of rewriting, I just pick up this one note card and I have my 3 things that I need to do, and then I can move on and feel good about the work that I did on that scene. Number 8, you probably figured out by now, but it's rewrite. So now we have our plan of attack and all we have to do is just start. I hope that hearing about Susan's process and the way that I'm planning to approach my draft was helpful or interesting. If you've ever revised a book, I'd love to hear about how it went for you and if you have any advice or do's or don'ts for the rest of us. And thanks for watching.